Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Inspired Action, where we dive into the most pressing leadership challenges and hope to inspire you to take a more coach-centered and people-focused approach to leadership. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and it's time to get started with our three amazing guests for today. Welcome back to another episode of Inspired Action. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and I'm here with three amazing guests today, once again, to answer this question: what keeps teams motivated in times of change? But first, let me do a quick introduction to our amazing guests. First and foremost, we have Ken Jacobs. Ken is the principal of Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching, where he empowers executives to become more inspiring, more inspired, and effective leaders. Previously, Ken spent 25 years in management and leadership positions with a number of PR agencies. He's a regular leadership speaker and hosts the video podcast, Taking the Lead, where he discusses, you guessed it, all things leadership. Next, we have Eric McKibben, principal lecturer at Clemson University. He teaches courses in industrial organizational psychology, sports psychology, and leadership in organizations. He's especially interested in how coaches and leaders can empower and inspire team members to more consistently perform at their peak. Finally, we have Alice Mar-Roche, founder of Mea Crescendo, based on her passion to empower and serve leaders. And I love this. Alice says her Mexican origin, fluency in 4 languages, life abroad, and 20 plus years as a senior HR leader have really shaped her global perspective. She partners with emerging and senior leaders to harness their energy, master influence and communication, and build a powerful leadership identity, presence, and brand. Cannot wait to hear from each of you. So let's jump right in. Ken, what keeps teams motivated in times of change?
Well, first, it's great to be here and with our fellow guests. I think for me, it all begins and ends with the leader. And now is the time, because these times might be considered change, uncertain, even tumultuous. Lean into your leadership. I'm not minimizing the importance of being a good manager, but now is the time to lean into your skills as a leader, to be an inspirer of people, to have people who are loyal followers and want to follow you. Number 2, it's a time for courage, to step into your courage. Courageous leaders attract followers like magnets attract iron filings. And we don't always understand why, but we are attracted to courageous leaders. This doesn't mean not having fear. As one of my courage heroes, Eleanor Roosevelt, said, I'm not going to do my imitation of Eleanor, so don't worry about that. But it's not about not having fear. It's about doing what needs to be done despite being afraid. Third would be, now's the time to connect with your values. People stay with, are loyal to, are empowered when they're at an organization where some of their values, some critical values, connect with those of the organization and the leader. Doesn't have to be every value, but they do need to sense what those values are. And for leaders right now, that means not only reiterating the values, especially when giving a task, giving an assignment, giving constructive feedback, but to remember that it's how you live those values as a leader. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. So do make sure you're living those values. Do we have time for one more, or
Yeah,
did I do
no,
my?
go ahead, real quick.
So one more. Check in. Now is not the time to assume that you're leading effectively. You cannot leave that to chance. You must get some feedback from the folks that you lead on how effectively are you leading them. Are they buying in? And are the tools you're using as a leader working for them?
Yeah, I love it. And I think that piece actually may take more courage for some leaders than it
Oh,
does,
yes.
to really be open to that candid feedback from all directions. So important. Awesome, Ken. Thank you. Eric, let's
Sure.
jump over to you. What keeps teams motivated in times of change?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, it's having an understanding that people actually want to change, right? I think there's this general myth out there that people are resistant to change, but that's not actually the case. People want to change and they make changes all the time. The thing is the thing that they're resistant to is the forced change. So helping your followers have a voice or having some agency, helping them see that they have a stake and a role in the change process can help keep them inspired. Number two is being a source of strength as a leader for your followers. So that is, being providing structure that your followers need, giving your followers an opportunity to learn and to develop and to grow as they're attempting to manage the change that they're engaged in. Number three is rooted in the idea. There's this theory that we study in psychology called self-determination theory, and it states that all followers or all people really are motivated by three things, right? The agency piece we just got done talking about, the belongingness or the affiliation piece that the leaders can serve, being connected with the followers. And then the third one, and I think is probably the most important, is the competence piece. So what competence refers to is any person's ability to perform an action. And what change represents is an opportunity to build and further hone and develop competence to help people face new and existing challenges in unique and different ways.
Man, I love that. I don't know how often you hear competence brought into the mix and the answer to this kind of a question. And I love the way you frame that. An opportunity to develop that, because it really is, right? Even if it's just an element of the mindset. Fantastic. Alice, last and certainly not least, what keeps teams motivated in times of change?
Well, there are definitely themes in what the three of us are saying. I chose one metaphor that I use with my leaders, and that is the happy warrior. It was coined by William Wordsworth and explored by Martha Nussbaum, a philosopher. The happy warrior is a leader who blends emotional strength, moral clarity, and joyful resilience. And that's exactly what people need when the ground beneath them is shifting. Now, generally, war metaphors are not optimal, but they can be effective if framed correctly. So, using that idea of how to motivate like a happy warrior, which can also be, by the way, since I work with my clients on brand, part of your brand, this happy warrior. I have six ways that you can motivate your team. One is, again, part of these themes that are coming out today, anchor your team in identity and purpose. I do a lot of deep identity work with clients. People must know who they are, their core values, and of course, we can share certain core values with the team and why their work matters. People want meaning because who we are being is authentic and it's unchanging. That is grounding no matter what is happening around us. This, of course, implies a clear vision and, of course, mission in terms of the organization and the leader. And that leads to my second tip, which is being emotionally agile. No need to fake cheerfulness, just be courageously real, present, and steady because your emotional tone sets theirs. And this requires embodying mindsets like curiosity and learning, playing an infinite game, and of course, many others. Communication with clarity, that really is without saying, of course, that's always, we don't want to leave people guessing, even if we don't have all the answers. We show up in truth, with empathy, and providing direction in real time. We also invite shared ownership or agency, another theme that's coming out in our talk today. You're not change isn't something that you do to people, it's something that you build with them by empowering them, fostering their creativity, their innovation and problem solving. And so we need to embody and foster that curiosity. Again, that's something I really work well with my clients on. And of course, within an environment of creating psychological safety, allowing for diverse ideas, belonging, inclusion, those types of things. And of course, celebrating those invisible wins, because sometimes during change, it's hard to see and celebrate our progress. So celebrating people's adaptability, the teamwork that they're displaying, any small pivots that they're able to make, that agility, right, that we're fostering with them. So all of these moments reinforce motivation on the team. And the last one is radiating meaningful optimism. Not Pollyanna, not blind positivity, but hope grounded in purpose. That's the
Mm,
energy people follow through uncertainty. So the happy warrior harnesses their energy, radiates optimism, embodies purpose, clarity, agility, ownership, and leads by presence. And that presence is a leader's greatest source of influence in times of change. Staying steady, staying human, and leading forward with hope and optimism.
love it. Steady and human as it goes. All right. How do you know what signals are indicators that motivation may be kind of dwindling or dripping or falling off, especially in the midst of change, right? And this is use kind of the collective of yeah, communication is great, but when we don't have all the answers and the leader may not be 100% bought in, but we're not the kind of leader who's going to go back because this is going to suck, so just get ready for it. We got to do it. How does awareness and leadership have an impact on noticing the signals when motivation declines? So Alice, why don't you kick us off and we'll just kind of go back in reverse order and let Ken wrap it up for us.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, hopefully you have enough psychological safety. I think that's just like a foundational thing, right? That people we want to be aware, but hopefully you're already building a culture and having an environment where people can voice and have that vulnerability. You yourself also have that vulnerability. But as far as the signs, I think, if you're noticing that people their energy and you and I we're eye peckers, so we focus a lot on people's energy, right, and their ability to shift it. So we can be human and sometimes we're frustrated or sometimes we're overwhelmed or sometimes we're whatever it is, but at the moment that you start to notice that people are having a struggle in shifting away from that, like having that experience, letting it be real and validated, but unable then to continue to move forward in that hopeful, inspired way, I think that's something a leader would pay a lot of attention to. So they can,
Yeah, just kind of staying stuck in that. Yeah, Eric, what would you add?
Yeah, I think I would echo some of the thoughts that Alice had. I think becoming distracted. So, being a psychology professor, I see it a lot in students, right? I see a lot of my students when I introduce a new topic or a new concept or a new idea that maybe change for them, they become distracted, they become overwhelmed, maybe even. And a lot of times they don't actually have the language themselves to describe what they're experiencing and what they're feeling. So, asking your followers to provide labels, right? So, just as a kind of an example of one that many people might be experiencing or be familiar with is it's like the feeling of being angry when you're hungry is a different feeling than when you're angry at your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever it might be, right? And we obviously have a label for that. We call it hangry. So having, providing labels and having followers develop their own set of emotional labels, I think can be sometimes helpful for them to understand when they're moving off task and focusing on maybe unproductive thoughts that they're having or feelings that they're having or things like that.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Ken, what would you add?
Yeah, I've got two sort of disparate thoughts, but this is where we monitor, well, this is where we shut up and listen and monitor body language, monitor tone, monitor their breathing, monitor everything, is their body language, their tone, their eyes, their eyebrows, their breathing, is it in line with what they're saying or does it belie what they're saying? Because all those things, if someone says I'm fine, can mean a million different things depending on those factors. You really need to find out which kind of I'm fine it is. Is it, yeah, I'm fine, or is it, I'm fine, right? Big difference there. I think the other is that's where we go into the stop talking and just ask a lot of open-ended empowering questions. So rather than telling, here's what we must need to do, here's my vision for it, here's what we're going to set going forward, instead saying, what do you see as our options, what might you see as our steps going forward, what do you see as the pluses and minuses and watchouts of what we've just proposed, what do you think your role could be in helping us achieve that? So fight the urge to speak, ask, and listen deeply. And usually they'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. Right. So clarity, courage, and maybe a confetti cannon every now and then, right? Maybe we summarize it that way. All right, you guys, man, that's incredible input in some creative perspective on things. That's all the time we have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Join us every week for a new episode of Inspired Action. Take care. Thanks, you guys. Well, that's a wrap for another edition of Inspired Action, the Leadership Forecast. We're so grateful for our guests today and the impact they're making with the work they do. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel to watch the longer version of this episode, and be sure to like, comment, connect with, and follow me and each of our guests. You'll find all of our links in the caption of this video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in every Thursday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for new episodes.